two, three, four.
So many people have observed that there is a minor lacuna in our collective musical history, basically the years loosely 2006 to 2010. These are the years before Spotify normalized and standardized streaming, but after the internet had already killed the record industry. It was a Wild West couple of years where some people were still burning CDs, and a few pioneers were listening to Pandora or whatever, but a lot of people were building up iTunes libraries. Obsessively maintained libraries that we thought would last forever, now scattered like dust across the digital plains. And we were building these libraries from our CD collections, from iTunes purchases. What a waste of money, by the way. iTunes gift cards did to me what NFTs did to whoever those people are. And we were also building our collections from the blogs. MP3 blogs were, to me, when the internet peaked. I'm talking about You Ain't No Picasso, Stereo Gum, Brooklyn Vegan, This Recording. Oh my god, This Recording was so good. I found so many bands there. If you were not logged on for the This Recording days, let me tell you how good we had it. Molly Lambert, she would post maybe a beautiful essay about that week's Mad Men episode, and then at the bottom of the article would be 2 MP3s you could download, a pair of songs from a new and interesting band that had some loose thematic connection. And then you could read another writer's, brief and somewhat incomprehensible but beautiful meditation on a road trip they took with their father in 2002, and there'd be another 2 MP3s at the bottom of that. And then you kind of play this game, like you'd read the post, and if you liked it, you would download the songs because you'd probably like them too. The vibes were simpatico. And you felt like you could pick and choose because you didn't think it would go away. I so desperately wish we could go back to the 2007 internet. I feel like I barely scratched the surface. Because yeah, all of that did go away. Slowly. I mean, it's still kind of going away slowly. Pitchfork was recently gutted. But at this point, which is ironic, by the way, Pitchfork gutted. Anyway, gross. At this point, it's mostly gone, and it's never coming back. Even the heroes of the blog era who managed to pivot out of there successfully, like the Stereo Gum guys who went independent, and guys like David Chen and Devendra Hardawar from Slash Film, who also spun their podcast off away from that blog after it was acquired, even those guys don't feel completely safe from the market forces that killed the 2007 internet. Bill Simmons is a guy that I talk about, I look up to a lot, despite not being a sports guy, and the reason that I do is because of the way that he made his site, Grantland, into the first life raft for the writers of that era. Molly Lambert from This Recording went there, and like everybody else from Grantland, pivoted to podcasting to stay afloat. That's where they all are now. Because when ESPN shut down Grantland, Bill went off and reverse engineered the same website again, creating The Ringer as an independent entity and podcast producing machine, and then successfully managed to fuse it with Spotify. Now, I'm not even sure that The Ringer is safe. When I listen to a lot of my favorite podcasts right now, they all sound like they're staring at blood in the water. Gimlet Media, a formerly huge and inspiring beacon of podcasting that gave us Reply All and Startup and Mystery Show, has at this point been crushed down into almost nothing by Spotify. Eventually it happens to everything. I mean, it's worth noting that Gimlet was in part felled by really contentious labor negotiations. Anti-union charges were what destroyed the great podcast Reply All, whereas The Ringer has just recently completed several rounds of negotiations with their various producer unions, and, hopefully it'll be different this time. Because it's so hard to find a new foothold on the new internet. An internet that's all closed systems, all apps that refuse to cooperate with each other, all phones that you can't easily preserve or maintain downloads on. I'm working on some songs with Morgan right now, and I want to hear them on my phone, but I have to download them from my email every single day because they don't remain in my Spotify app because nobody's making money on them. If you are a person who makes things online now, if you're a content creator, there's no hub to interact with your viewers anymore. If you make TikToks, you're also posting them on Reels, and you're hoping they'll go viral beyond your reach, and other people will be talking about them in places you don't even know about and can't even see. If you're a podcaster, you don't know how many people listen. the apps they're using, the kind of links you should be posting to help them hear you. And on your podcast, you can talk about a song and play a clip and hope that nobody's lawyer gets mad at you and nobody's algorithm changes to detect and delete you. But you can't put a link to download the song in your show notes. Download it from where? What is this built on anymore? What's stable and permanent? We talk about the way that the music of the pre-streaming era has vanished from the public consciousness, but that's probably nothing compared to what will happen to today's music. I can dig a bunch of higher quality audio files off my external hard drive if I want to talk about Block Party and Clap Your Hands Say Yeah, but if I want to listen to that Wednesday record in 20 years, do you think my Bandcamp login is going to work? No. But that's a problem for the future. Future music historians, future podcasters, or whatever they'll call podcasts when they start making them for VR headsets or whatever, the people of the future will sort this out with their goggles, I am sure of it. Today, I want to focus on a gap, that gap we already identified, the blog rock era, and its forgotten music. I want to do a little bit of excavation. Particularly, I want to dig into a particular word and examine that word's musical legacy. I'm talking, of course, about the word twee. Welcome to Make a Mixtape, I'm Zach Little. And what do you think about when you hear the word twee? Zooey Deschanel? Sort of Etsy-ish, cute but weird in a non-threatening way? Ukuleles? Zooey Deschanel with a ukulele? Somewhere in the neighborhood of Dapper? Maybe not exactly Dapper, but a neighbor of Dapper? Is Wes Anderson Dapper or twee? What if you gave Wes Anderson a banjo? See, in my head, in the sort of Venn diagram that I'm visualizing, when I had a banjo, I'm actually approaching the edge of twee and moving instead toward a sort of stomp and holler aesthetic like the Lumineers and Mumford & Sons. Those guys wore suspenders and bowler hats, which certainly could be twee, but wasn't in their case because it was sort of dusty and Steinbecky instead. Steampunk is also not twee, by the way, but it's in the same universe. Honestly, the very first song that I think of when I think of twee, the very middle of the circle in the diagram, is by a band called The Boy Least Likely To, and it's a song called I'm Glad I Hitched My Apple Wagon to Your Star. Feels twee already, right? Well, listen to the song.
I was young and I was stupid, I had just turned 17. I took my hits on a dumb road trip to Nashville, Tennessee.
Here's the thing about this kind of music. It fucking rules. In the pre-chorus, the song does this little dip into a minor chord with a major lift up to the chorus, and it's so perfectly syncopated with the banjo and the whirro, which is the scratch percussion instrument. It's very satisfying.
I packed my antihistamines and Tupperware drugs, a harmonica and a box guitar in the canvas-covered wagon stuffed with apples and with guns.
See? Now, do you need a whirro and a banjo to be twee? No. Do you need a glockenspiel or some other kind of bell-based instrument? Maybe. I'm thinking right now of this New Zealand band I saw once, open for Rilo Kiley, called The Brunettes. They have this kind of surf rock but with toy instruments sound that was really fun and really infectious. They dressed a little bit like side characters from the movie Grease. They were amazing, by the way. One of the better live performances that I've ever seen. But if you were not introduced to that band first in a live performance, if you first heard a song of theirs that I really like that's called Polyester Meets Acetate, it starts out all guitars. And from here we could be going anywhere. But those bells come in after a few seconds, and you get it.
Fashion for first year man again. The shop's your pupil for hearts over like her. She got flat and foresight.
Weird side note, but there are two versions of this song on Spotify, and in one the drums are isolated in the right stereo channel, and in the other they're isolated in the left channel. I don't really know what that's about, but this is a great song.
She's a conquest in here, so in touch with style and grace. When all the fools in school go, I wish they would all go half-paying instead of making plays for her.
And the Brunettes had two lead singers, a male and a female singer, both brunette. And for whatever reason, something about that reads as twee to me. And maybe this goes back to our standard bearer, Zooey Deschanel, who had a band called She and Him with the great singer-songwriter M. Ward. Maybe they retroactively made the dual opposite-sex lead singers into a twee thing. Does that make Fleetwood Mac twee, by the way? I think Tusk at least qualifies. Anyway, there are a whole bunch of twee and twee-adjacent bands from the blog rock era which were just one lady and one dude. Like the Subways. This is a song that's called I Want to Hear What You Have Got to Say. The titles are really great universally. This song is good because it has a rock-solid melody, and musically it feels like it's doing enough even before it kicks in hard. Does it seem odd to say that twee music is marked by simplicity, even though it often features like toy instruments and odd percussion? I mean, we haven't even gotten to the oddest percussion we're going to get to. But like, you know, those are superficial complications. The music itself is often really simple, satisfying shit. Cowboy chords, you know, with a novelty necktie. Another good example is this duo called The Blow. This song is called Parentheses.
When you're holding me, we make a pair of parentheses. There's plenty space to encase whatever weird way my mind goes. I know I'll be safe in these arms. When you're holding me, we make a pair of parentheses.
There's just something really wonderful about this kind of direct, lightly nasal vocal delivery. Maybe it's a little bit ASMR-y for me, I don't know, but it's good. Now, while we're talking about twee musical duos, it would be podcast malpractice not to talk about Mates of State, a blog rock era band who bubbles up every now and again still, just because they have like a dozen certified bangers. Their album Bring It Back is like wall to wall, but the one that I'm putting on our mixtape today is called For the Actor. It's the first song of theirs I ever heard. Really fast and loud. Drums, keyboard, both singers going full speed from the jump. Musically, it's not super complicated, like that little breakdown at the end of each line in the verse is just a bunch of octaves of the same note, but it has energy. And that is another common thread that I'd like to identify and associate with twee. It always has energy. Even the quieter songs have syncopation, they have satisfying melodies, they never drag. Now, I'm sort of trying to figure out the order of this mixtape in my head, you know, and that energy, it can present kind of a sequencing problem. You can't follow For the Actor with another high-energy duo. So what other kinds of musical setups do we typically see with twee bands? What's funny is that the majority of them seem to only have two members, or like so many members that you could never even really clear how many there ever were. The Polyphonic Spree is one such emblematically twee band. They all wore choir robes, they jumped around on stage, they were sort of earnest but sad in a way that was hard to parse. Members of the band included Annie Clark, now of St. Vincent, who I think was once twee but kind of evolved out, or maybe she never was. I don't know. I mean, her first album, Marry Me, it has some songs like Jesus Saves, I Spend, which are pretty tongue-in-cheek cutesy, but it also features Paris is Burning, which is still one of the most menacing songs in Annie Clark's catalog.
We are waiting on a telegram to give us news of the fall. I am sorry to report, dear Paris is burning after all.
Yeah, honestly, I think that Annie, despite launching in the blog rock era and bearing at least some twee signifiers, doesn't really belong here. But her old band, the Polyphonic Spree, had a theremin player. They are never beating the allegations.
Hold me now, don't start shaking. You keep me safe, don't ever think you're the only one. When times are tough and you're new age.
Okay, but can I just share one like hyper-specific gripe about this song, which by the way is called Section 12, Hold Me Now. It starts with a piano and drums, and the way that the semi-closed hi-hat sounds and meshes with the piano chords. It sounds exactly to me like the way a corrupted audio file sounds, very digital artifact. It distracts me every single time I hear this song. Like, literally for years I thought that the MP3 I downloaded of this song from this recording was just a bad rip. Okay, I'm hesitating a little bit on the idea of the robes and all that with the polyphonic spree. Like, I'm wondering if they're actually verging into psychedelic instead. When we think about the outer limits of twee, for sure, psychedelic is on one border, another is steampunk. Like, I'd say that the Decemberists are on the steampunk side of the border, just barely, but they're over there. Another border is just preppy, you know? Like, Vampire Weekend is not twee, they're preppy. And yet, my next track for this mixtape, a song by Bishop Allen, it falls right on the twee side of the preppy twee border. The song is called Click, 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 which, you know, that is a song title's already 1 point in the twee column. Then pretty much immediately you've got bells, you got a bouncy little beat, and you're right in the pocket.
Sure, I got pictures of my own, of all the people and the places that I've known. Here's one, I'm carrying your suitcase outside of Alphabet City.
Bishop Allen illustrates something else that's important about twee music, which is that the lyrics are often profound or even kind of bleak. You know, you dress up the darkness in a vintage vest and it hits in a different way. I think a lot about the climax of this other Bishop Allen song that's called The Monitor. It sort of builds a metaphor for emotional self-worth out of the story of the Battle of Hampton Roads, which marked a turning point in naval warfare, according to Wikipedia. Fun fact about this song is that it's one of my two favorite songs about the Battle of Hampton Roads, the other one being The Battle of Hampton Roads by Titus Andronicus, another song that builds a metaphor for emotional self-worth and self-sabotage out of, you know, the entire Civil War. That album, not coincidentally, is called The Monitor. I know it's confusing, but something about that battle really resonated with early aughts musicians who really resonate with me, I guess.
It's stunning to know I've survived, but I don't know what I'm fighting for anymore. And when I break another string and continue to sing, is that courage? I'm not sure. When the ironclads drifted apart, still blue and still gray, the men shoveled in coal and worked the pumps at the hull just like every other day. And none of them knew, or none of them cared how much it just changed right then and right there. They just carried on, carried on, carried on. And we're singing la-da-da-da-da-da.
Another band from this era that I really like, where I was never sure how many members were in the band or if it was just a DJ project or what, is called The Go Team. And it's important to note, since we're in an audio medium, that the Go in the band's name includes an exclamation point. Punctuation in your band name is not a hallmark exclusive to twee. After all, there is the drone metal experimental band Godspeed You! Black Emperor. But it's not a surprising thing to find in the genre that we're exploring today. Now, this Go Team song, Huddle Formation, I've learned that it is very familiar to many people as the theme song to the podcast Jordan Jesse Go. To me, it's the sound of my college radio station, which is where I came across this CD when it was mailed to us by the record label. High energy, gang vocals, great song titles. They have a song I really love called Hold Your Terror Close, where they spell the your as YR, like LTD Sound System. I love that shit. It's possible that the Go team is too cool to be twee. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that twee isn't cool. Like, I clearly have a lot of respect for the genre. But there are tiers of cool, and those tiers supersede almost every other classification on Earth, as you well know. Okay, a couple more bands that I wanted to touch on. Tilly and the Wall is pretty famous, at least, around my friends and family. And the elevator pitch of this band is one of the greatest of all time. What if you replaced your drummer with a tap dancer? Very twee, but also sick as fuck. Like, let's go.
Fell down the stairs into my arms and swiftly ran the other way. And I heard the steady swell of applause for two drunk kids trying to figure out which way was home. They got lost as they were taking off each other's clothes. They realized there was a hole in the boat. And with no lifesaver, you try your best to float.
Now, we've established that the twee music of the blog rock era was very high energy, but very few bands approached the kind of energy and fun, especially of Tilly and the Wall's first two records, Wild Like Children and Bottoms of Barrels. Now that brings us to 9 songs, and I could go on for a long time here. There's a couple of girl groups who are kind of somewhere between twee and like Coven of Witches, like Au Revoir Simone. There are a couple of bands that came along too early for blog rock, but clearly invented the musical style. Well-known groups like Belle and Sebastian, but also lesser-known bands like Beulah. They have a song I love called Popular Mechanics for Lovers. More great titles. Then there are artists like Regina Spektor, who has a lot of twee signifiers, but doesn't really make twee music. Bands like the Dresden Dolls, too. But to talk about that, we'd have to talk about where my makeup fits in with steampunk. And also, if we start talking about anything related to Amanda Palmer in a discussion about, like, the death of the music industry, we'd be here all fucking day. No, for our last song on this list, let's go with Los Campesinos. This song is called You, Me, Dancing. And for sequencing reasons, we'll have to actually put it first, because the song doesn't really start for 1 minute and 40 seconds. But it's worth it. Listen to this.
Beats, yeah, they were coming at the speakers and were winding up. Straight in your sneakers, and I'm dancing like every song he spins his piss, or like all my dance heroes would if they exist. And yeah, it's sad that you think that we're all just singsters, and even if we were, it's not the senior thinking of just taking pros from 90s boy band fashions, or crop tops and testosterone passion.
Bells. Chaotic but simplistic arrangements. 2008. So it's kind of the quintessential twee blog rock anthem, and it also gives me a great idea for an episode title. Okay, so for record-keeping purposes, here are my picks for the blog rock lost era twee bangers mixtape. You, Me, Dancing by Los Campesinos. I'm Glad I Hitched My Apple Wagon to Your Star by The Boy Least Likely To. Polyester Meets Acetate by The Brunettes. I Want to Hear What You've Got to Say by The Subways. Parentheses by The Blow. For the Actor by Mates of State. Section 12, Hold Me Now by The Polyphonic Spree. Click, 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 Click by Bishop Allen. Huddle Formation by the Go Team. And Fell Down the Stairs by Tilly and the Wall. There are so many other great songs by these artists and in this genre, but if you pop that into Spotify and you listen to those songs, it'll start to feed you the rest of it. If you feel like there were major glaring omissions from this mixtape, please get in touch. But otherwise, we will be back soon with some really fun new episodes. I'm looking forward to it. So have a great rest of your day.